You know, the thing about retirement is that you assume the fighting is over, the corporate wars, the land battles, the petty jealousies. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. Because sometimes, the biggest war of your life is waiting for you in a pastel cardigan, holding a tuna casserole and a lie. My name is Hank Peterson. I'm 63 now, and for 35 years, I was a licensed land surveyor. A man whose entire life revolved around an unmovable, indisputable line drawn in the dirt. So when Carol Vance, the self-appointed queen of the Oakhaven Estates HOA, looked me dead in the eye and screamed that my private beachfront was community property, I didn't argue. I just smiled and thought, well, Carol, you just declared war on 35 years of geometry and state law. It was all supposed to be quiet mornings and coffee after my wife, Clara, passed away in 2019. This cabin, this slice of heaven on Lake Serenity. I bought the 2.5 acres back in '97, just empty woods and a dirt track, paying $40,000 for what became the only true lakefront parcel. I paid for the road. I paid the taxes. I paid for every load of gravel, and I personally surveyed every inch of it. Then the developers came, built Oakhaven, a gated community of 250 homes, nice little quarter-acre boxes with pristine lake views. But here's the kicker about Oakhaven. Every single property line stopped 60 feet above the water at the ridge line. They could see it, but they couldn't touch it, not legally. I was the gatekeeper, the sole owner of the shoreline. Carol came to my door about 6 months after I moved in, April 2024. She was wearing that sickeningly cheerful pink cardigan, holding that casserole dish, a fake smile plastered on her face that didn't touch her eyes at all. "Welcome to Oakhaven, Hank," she chirped. "I'm the board president. I just wanted to continue the tradition. The former owner was so generous, letting all the families use your beach access. I'm sure you'll want to continue that spirit of community." I was new, looking for peace, and frankly, I didn't see the harm. "Keep it reasonable," I told her. "No huge parties. Pick up your trash. Sure, use it." She thanked me profusely, gushing about the grateful families. What I didn't realize was that in her mind, she wasn't asking for a favor. She was confirming a vested right. See, Carol was also a real estate broker, and she had sold nearly 70% of those homes, using a glossy brochure that explicitly promised exclusive community lake access. She was selling a lie based on my courtesy. For about 8 months, it was fine. Kids splashing, kayaks, a friendly wave from my porch. Then, in December, I stopped by the clubhouse to drop off my dues. And there it was, a huge color rendering of a 2-tiered, composite deck dock with a pavilion, solar lights. The works. Cost, $95,000. Title, Oakhaven Estates Community Waterfront Project. It was drawn right onto my beach, my property. I called Carol immediately. "Carol," I said, keeping my voice level, "did anyone from the board ask my permission to build a permanent structure on my land?" There was a pause, then that sharp, confused little laugh. "Permission, Hank? We don't need permission. That's been community property for 20 years. It's a tradition." "No, it's not," I countered. "Show me the recorded easement, Carol. The legal instrument that grants Oakhaven Estates perpetual access rights over my property, parcel 14B. Show me that, and we're fine." She scoffed. "We don't have anything like that, Hank. It's always been understood. We'll proceed as planned. This is for the good of the community." Then she hung up, the sweetness gone, replaced by the cold, clipped tone of a tyrant. That night, I pulled out every document. My original deed, the 1997 survey I commissioned, the tax records showing I'd paid 100% of the property taxes for 27 years. I reviewed the HOA covenants. Nothing but vague, hopeful language about lake access. Zero legal description, zero meets and bounds. She was selling fraudulent access. I called an old friend of Clara's, Ramona Soto, a litigator famous for winning complex property cases. "Ramona," I said, "I need your help, and I think you're going to enjoy this. It's a textbook case of entitlement meeting a property line." Ramona's advice was simple, surgical, and absolutely brilliant. "Hank, you have a slam dunk, but HOAs are vicious. They have insurance, and they have lawyers on retainer. They will try to claim prescriptive easement, that they've used it openly and continuously for the statutory period. So here's what we do. Document everything, every interaction, every threat, every footstep. Build a case so airtight that when we hit them, they won't just lose the battle, they'll lose the war, and maybe their insurance policy. I spent the next 3 weeks transforming my property into a surveillance zone. I installed a motion-activated, night vision trail camera aimed squarely at the access road. I printed bright orange surveyor flags and staked them every 15 feet along my boundary. I wanted zero confusion. Then, on December 18th, I sent the board an email with a certified return receipt. Subject: Waterfront construction. Body: I do not consent to construction on my property. Any entry without explicit written permission constitutes trespassing. Halt all plans immediately. Attached were my deed and the survey. Carol's reply came back 42 minutes later. Derek, you are being selfish. 250 families rely on this. We have awarded the contract and collected the special assessment. We will proceed on January 15th. You are welcome to attend the next board meeting. Selfish. That word just ignited something inside me. I was selfish for not letting them build a $95,000 monument to their deception on the land I paid for. I forwarded the email to Ramona. Her reply was 2 words: case confirmed. By Christmas Eve, the trail camera had logged 21 separate trespassing incidents. Families unaware, kids playing, all time-stamped, all saved to a spreadsheet with the notation, evidence for temporary restraining order. January 15th arrived cold and clear. I was up at 6 a.m. The centerpiece of my strategy was waiting in the bed of my old Ford, a 15-foot length of heavy-gauge steel chain, and a naval-grade padlock I used to secure equipment when I was working state contracts. Nothing short of an angle grinder was getting through that. At 7:05 a.m., I heard the distinctive rumble of heavy diesel. A massive yellow excavator, treads clanking, rounded the bend, followed by a pickup with Sentinel Construction LLC emblazoned on the side. They stopped exactly where my orange markers were staked. I walked down calmly. "Morning, gentlemen," I said. "Can I help you?" The operator, a young guy scrolling on his phone, looked up. "We're here to start the dock project for the HOA. I'm the property owner," I said, "and I didn't give permission. Here." I handed him 3 laminated documents: the certified survey, my deed, and the temporary restraining order issued by the county court yesterday, prohibiting any construction on my parcel. His face drained of color. He made a quick call, and I heard him say, "Look, boss, the landowner's here with a court order. And there's a sheriff's deputy pulling up right now. I'm not catching a contempt charge for a dock, you figure it out." Deputy Stan Mitchell, a good man I knew from the hardware store, stepped out of his cruiser. He confirmed the court order, nodded to the crew, and watched them back the massive excavator up the hill. The whole confrontation, from start to finish, took 9 minutes. Then Carol's white Mercedes came screeching down the road. She burst out, face the color of brick dust, eyes wide with pure, unadulterated fury. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Hank?" "Protecting my property, Carol. Just like the court instructed. You can't do this. That dock is funded. We have 250 families. Show me the easement, Carol." She stopped dead, blinking. "What?" "The recorded easement. Show me the paper that says Oak Haven owns any part of this land." Deputy Mitchell stepped forward quietly. "Ma'am, he has a restraining order. Any attempt to proceed is contempt of court. You're served." I handed her a copy of the TRO. She just stood there, hand trembling as she took the document, and walked back to her car without another word. The queen had been dethroned, at least for the morning. I stretched that heavy chain across the access road, locked the naval-grade padlock with a satisfying clack, and mounted a sign: "Private road. Owner access only. Violators will be prosecuted." The lock stayed put for exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. Then the trail camera caught Carol, a board member named Janice, and a sharp-looking man in a suit walking down the road. Carol pointed at the lock. The man in the suit pulled out a massive pair of bolt cutters. The audio picked up Carol's voice, sharp and commanding. "Just cut it, Howard. He can't stop all of us." The man, Howard Wallace from Wallace and Associates LLP, clamped the cutters onto the shackle and put his full weight into it. The handles bent backward. The lock didn't budge. He tried again, grunting in frustration. "What the hell kind of lock is this?" he muttered. "Military grade," I said from behind them. I'd walked down through the woods, staying off the road. "Hardened steel shackle. You'd need an angle grinder, or, my permission." Carol's face was pure venom. You absolute tyrant. We'll sue you for blocking community access. Go ahead, I said, handing Howard Wallace Ramona's card. Send all correspondence to her. Now, kindly get off my property before I call Deputy Mitchell again. They left, humiliated, but I had all the evidence: video, audio, and attempted destruction of property by the HOA's own counsel. They retaliated viciously. They levied a $500 per month fine against me, sent a mass email to all residents slandering me as one selfish outsider, and unleashed a wave of hate mail and vandalism. Someone keyed my truck. My mailbox was ripped out of the ground. The anonymous comments on the community message boards were disgusting. Ramona just laughed, though. Hank, they are self-immolating. They just committed libel to 250 witnesses. This is all gold. Then came Carol's desperate play. She used her political connection, a county commissioner named Martin Shields, to have the county planning department send me a violation notice, claiming my road was a public right-of-way based on a bogus 1987 plat. I filed a FOIA request immediately, determined to find the paper trail. A few days later, a reporter named Ethan Cole from the Regional Ledger called me. He was investigating Commissioner Shields for ethics violations and conflicts of interest. We met, and Ethan laid out the whole sordid affair. Sentinel Construction, the company Carol hired, was owned by Shields' nephew, and they had won the contract for $95,000, which was $40,000 over the other two competitive bids. Carol and the board had donated $12,000 to Shields' re-election campaign in the last 2 years. The quid pro quo was laid bare. Ethan's article was a bombshell. The lake access land grab. How Oakhaven built an empire on someone else's property. It detailed my 1997 ownership, the lack of an easement, the inflated contract, and the campaign donations. I followed up with a local TV interview, looking straight into the camera. I'm not blocking access, I stated. I'm blocking fraud. They sold homes promising an amenity they didn't legally own. They've been trespassing for 20 years and calling it tradition. I'm not the villain. I'm the guy who actually owns the land. The narrative flipped overnight. The message boards went from crush the outsider to did Carol lie to us? 3 board members resigned. Then the county ethics board opened an investigation into Commissioner Shields, and my violation notice was quietly rescinded with a 1-sentence letter. Upon further review, the access road in question is determined to be private property. Case closed. I framed that letter. The final hammer blow came from United Title Insurance. Their investigator, Victoria Hayes, sent a letter to every homeowner, title defect notice. She confirmed 0 recorded easements and stated that any homeowner who bought based on the HOA's promise of lake access may have a claim against the HOA and the real estate agents for fraudulent inducement. That was it. 18 families, including 3 board member families, hired attorneys and threatened to sue the HOA personally for breach of fiduciary duty. Wallace and Associates dropped them faster than a hot potato. Carol called an emergency meeting to propose a $3,000 special assessment to fund the legal defense against me. I didn't go, but my neighbor, Sarah Chun, recorded it. The room turned into a riot. You lied to us, Carol. Why should we pay $3,000 to cover your screw-up? A woman yelled. You sold us a lifestyle you didn't own, shouted a man. The motion failed spectacularly. The remaining 2 board members resigned on the spot. Carol was left standing alone at the gavel. 3 days later, Ramona got the call from their new attorney. Miss Soto, my client is interested in discussing settlement. We settled. The terms were non-negotiable. $185,000 cash settlement to cover my legal fees, my damages, and the vandalism. A public, written apology mailed to every homeowner. A recorded notice of no easement permanently affixed to every property deed in Oakhaven. And, of course, Carol Vance's immediate, irrevocable resignation. She quit the next morning. The court hearing on April 12th was just a formality. The judge, Eleanor Thorne, listened patiently to the HOA's lawyer, who weakly pleaded for equity. Ramona just stood there, quiet, then showed the court the survey, the deed, the trespass footage, and Carol's infamous email. We need to figure out the easement situation before Brennan finds out we don't have one. The judge didn't even leave the bench. She granted the permanent injunction, permanently forbidding Oakhaven residents from entering my property without my express written consent, and awarded me my full attorney's fees. Gavel down. Case closed. Walking out of that courthouse, with residents lining the hall to apologize and shake my hand, I felt an intense sense of vindication, but also a hollow feeling. I had won the war, secured the boundary line I had drawn decades ago, but what do you do with that kind of power? Lock it down forever? That's what they expected. That's what an HOA tyrant would do. But I was just Hank, the surveyor. So I waited. I took the $185,000, kept the chain locked for a month, and watched. When Sarah Chun took over as the new, interim HOA president, I drafted something I called the Serenity Lake Access License. It was not an easement. It was a revocable license, meaning I could cancel it instantly. The terms: maximum 35 families per day, online reservation system, zero alcohol, zero structures, and every single family had to complete 2 hours of volunteer lake cleanup per season. If they didn't, they lost access the next year. It was about respect and accountability, not entitlement. I presented it to Sarah's new board. They read it, looked at each other, and Sarah just said, "Hank, this is more than fair. Thank you." I hadn't wanted to block access. I just wanted them to respect the law and the property. Now we had both. I used the settlement money to do something that truly mattered. I established the Clara Peterson Conservation Fund with $100,000, a nonprofit dedicated to water quality testing and habitat restoration for Lake Serenity. I used another $50,000 to endow the Surveyor's Legacy Scholarship at the local community college for students pursuing civil engineering or land use law. And the rest? It became the Good Neighbor Legal Defense Fund, offering free consultations with Ramona for any homeowner in the county dealing with HOA overreach. Last month, we had our first annual Lake Restoration Day. Over 150 volunteers showed up. Families who had sent me hate mail were now standing next to me, planting native shrubs and pulling debris from the shoreline. I watched the kids splashing, knowing they were there because the community had finally learned to respect the line. Carol Vance, by the way, moved about 50 miles away to a new development. I heard she joined the HOA board there. I don't wish her ill, but I hope she learned that authority without accountability is just bullying. Here's what I learned, and what I want you to take away. 1. Document everything. Paper trails win cases. 2. Know your property lines. Get a certified survey. 3. The law protects you, but only if you're willing to use it. 4. When you win, don't just win for yourself. Build something that lasts. Turn that victory into something good for the whole community. So tell me, if you were me, after all the stress, the vandalism, the lies, would you have sold the access, locked it down forever, or done what I did? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story helped you figure out how to stand up to your own HOA, hit that share button. Justice is contagious. Now, go protect what's yours.